So just to let you all know that tonight this is being sponsored by the different organizations in which Jah has laid on my heart to begin. So we can look at Brew Talk, BRU, Black Relationships Uncut, personal development coaching. I'll get into a little bit about that later. But also Building Bridges 2.0, which this is a Building Bridges 2.0 meeting. If you're not familiar with Building Bridges, we originally started as a group where we were, as Hebrews, trying to create bridges with Gentiles, but we found out over a series of time that we had a lot of things on the inside of us that needed to be dealt with. So under our brother Karis Copeland, who is now leading Question Night Africa, we were doing Building Bridges, the first one, and now I have taken over back again for Building Bridges 2.0, and we are addressing the issues most pertinent to us as Brews, specifically dealing with our issues. All right, the 714 movement. If you're not familiar with the 714 movement, it is our prayer initiative, and with the 714 movement, which was heavily done last year and will be starting back up again this year, is where we had corporate prayer. Very topical, specific corporate prayer that we hosted on the channel, Ashanda at Large, and partnering with other ministries so that we can pray corporately, raise up a cry unto the Most High for our community and see some effectual change happening. And also Shalom Home Hebrew Lifestyle Blog. Shalom Home Hebrew Lifestyle Blog is what we are working on so that we can be the hub, if you will, of the Brew community concerning all things that happen to us as a people, whether it's geopolitical issues, finance, whether it's personal development, whatever the issues are that we are facing as community, to be able to engage in conversation about that. And so that is what we are working on currently, is building up the blog. And you will be able to sign up to the newsletter so that you will know about the exact opening date of the blog, as well as new articles that are created and published on the blog once we start. Ways that you can support the mission: you can support by volunteering your time. You can invest in your personal growth through Brew Talk. And also you can give by way of financial donation to the continued progress of each work. This is a huge undertaking. I'm not going to sit here and try to, minimize what goes into creating a platform, what goes into creating different avenues for us to engage in as a community. But it is a huge undertaking, and I'm very thankful to have, the people who are so supportive and have become like family, people like Ruhama, who is my mod on YouTube, but also, a good friend that we have come to become like family, and, several others who have donated their time, who have volunteered to make sure that the work that we're doing here on this platform continues. My husband, of course, always leading and shepherding our home. All of those things are important. So, thank you for coming on tonight. And I pray that however Yahuwah leads you to support, that you do so. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Shalom Home. This is actually the wrong flyer for it. It's supposed to be Shalom Home, Not Beautiful Feet. I changed the name. And again, I already told you this is where you can subscribe for the blog. And Ruhama is going to actually put in the chat the link for you to subscribe if you are not already subscribed to the newsletter. But what you see before you right here is our Brew Talk personal development coaching. This will be a group coaching that we'll be hosting at the end of the month, going into the summer, going into June. So this is family lies and breaking ties. And essentially what this is going to be dealing with is family strongholds, things that we struggle with, we hear things like, okay, you're becoming like your mom, you're becoming like your dad. Well, oftentimes it's because we're dealing with strongholds that have not been broken from one generation to the next. So we're going to be addressing those strongholds, how to overcome those generational and familial strongholds that keep us bound, so that we can be overcomers, so that we can lay the axe to the root. This Brew Talk meetup is a group coaching, like I said, and it will be about a 2-hour session, and the cost to attend that is going to be $50 per person. So if you are interested, Ruhama is also going to drop the link for you to sign up so that you can participate in that as well. All right, and like I said, the initiatives that come with what we're doing here, it takes more than one person to be able to do this. It takes a team, and that's one thing that I'm really doing right now, is developing teams to be able to make everything flow. And so with the 714 movement, a lot of it has been me going in and communicating with different prayer partners, different ministry leaders. And so what we're doing right now is we are expanding it so that we can have an actual prayer team that comes on consistently so that we can make this a consistent thing that we do on the platform. So if you're interested in volunteering to be a part of the prayer team and or being a prayer coordinator, we need 5 volunteers and 2 prayer coordinators. You can just email me at ashandamccants11@gmail.com and the subject prayer team for more details. So I believe that's it. And of course, the ways to give. If you are interested in furthering the work financially, you can do so by CashApp, Aaron and Ashanda, PayPal at ashandamccants11@gmail.com. You can become a monthly member or by way of YouTube membership or by way of Patreon. So I believe that we are all right. So let's go ahead and get started with tonight. We are talking about the expectation of divinity. A few days ago on my channel, I addressed the expectation of degeneracy, and that video actually hit a lot of nerves for a lot of people. Obviously, it hit my nerves. I had people in the comment section making very, awkward and funny statements. They were saying things, a lot of trolls saying things that were inappropriate. And I believe that a lot of that has to do with the uncomfortability of the issues in our culture. Now, this, what you see before you, is by no means a comprehensive list of what we are as a people culturally. Most definitely not. There's so many fantastic things about the Hebrew people that oftentimes gets thrown under the rug and it's not elevated to the forefront. But what is elevated to the forefront is what you see in front of you. So whether you look here to the left, and we're going to just examine each one of these pictures as a display of what has been going on in our culture. So you see the picture to your left, and you see 2 girls, and they're holding what is known as the LGBT flag, which of course was taken out of the scripture where the Most High put a rainbow in the sky so that he would not judge the earth in the way in which he had done so with Noah by way of flood. He would not judge the earth in that way again. And this was to be a reminder. So they have taken this reminder, this beautiful bow, and they have turned it into something very debaucherous. But this is what our culture is dealing with. Yes, we know that we are not the only culture. We're not the only people group, ethnic people group who are dealing with the issue of homosexuality and the LGBT community, by no means, but our community is very targeted in this. We know, especially from Black Lives Matter, we know that the founders of Black Lives Matter, that they were lesbian women, and they were really kind of integrating. They were trying to do the push to elevate the LGBT community in the issue and the fight for our freedom, our civil rights. But this even goes back to the 60s during the civil rights movement, where we saw that MLK, that his writer, the people that he found himself in the company of were people who were heavily into the LGBT scene. And so this push to integrate LGBT into our culture as a staple is something that we have been seeing. It's been growing. And I will just give you all an example. So here in the Virgin Islands is the time of Carnival, and we have Carnival once a year here. And there is something in Carnival called Juve. And what a lot of people don't understand about Juve is that Juve is like an overnight party that is ran through the streets. So everybody who is local comes out into the streets that participates in Carnival, and they go behind one band or the other band that's playing music, bands like Jam Band and, all these like famous local and Caribbean Calypso organizations that come out, and they go in and they dance all night. And when I mean all night, they're dancing all night. So you're talking about, people are dancing and, starting at 11 p.m. at night, and they're dancing until 7 a.m., 8 a.m. in the morning. Now, when I was a teenager, I did participate in Carnival. I participated in Juve. I know exactly what it looks like. I know what it feels like because I participated in Juve. Obviously, I wasn't born again, and none of the things that I know today, I knew as a teenager. But in the participation of Juve, I was able to see that, that was the one time of the year. My grandfather was very, very stringent, but that was a one time of the year where I could do anything. I could go out. I could be where I wanted to be. There was no rules. I could just show up when I wanted to show up. So show up where I want to show up, excuse me. So the thing about the culture when it comes to the Caribbean and Juve, it is a time where there's no hold bar. There's no hold bar at all. But you would be surprised, because one of the things the Caribbean is known for is having some stand of morality, some stance of morality when it comes to LGBT. But that is quickly eroding. So for this carnival, we found out that there was an entire wedding ceremony between two lesbian women at Juve. Now, this happened 2 nights ago, 2 nights into the morning ago. And that has never, ever, that is absolutely unprecedented in the Virgin Islands, to have a homosexual couple that is able to go in front of a crowd of thousands of people and host their ceremony, if you will. And this was a Hebrew woman and a Gentile woman who were engaging in this quote unquote marital ceremony. So when I say to you that the staple making this normalcy within the culture, this is not something that just affects the US, it is affecting the diaspora as a whole. And we know that the US is really trying their hardest to make it to go onto the continent and cause a lot of the countries over there to embrace that spirit. But many of them are still defiant, and I praise y'all for that. A lot of our young women, and you know, it's so sad because the culture that we live in, it's like on the one end, you want to celebrate the fact that they're keeping their children, but on the other end, you're looking at the reality that they're having sex and they're not married. But the opposite is that they're going to abort their children, right? So it's like, okay, you keep your children versus aborting your children. However, you're not even capable of doing the job properly as a parent because you don't have the stability. And so what happens is that our young people are out here and they're in a hypersexual culture, hypersexualized culture, and it's expected of our young men and women to go out there and have sex before marriage. Marriage, as a matter of fact, is looked at as antiquated. It is old. It is something that, you know, they're not even interested anymore. The only thing that they're interested in is being able to just lay down and have their fun. But the consequences of it, whether it's STDs, which I did not show on here, but that is the reality, STDs or unwanted pregnancy. And see, you can look at this picture right here and see that there's no shame even anymore. There's no shame about it anymore. It used to be that if a young woman found herself in a situation where she was pregnant, there was a shame that was on the inside of her because she knew that culturally what she was doing was wrong. But today, it is celebrated. Today, they throw on baby showers when they're 16 years old and they're pregnant. And a lot of the guys that they're pregnant for, these guys are not in their age range. These guys are older. They're older men. So you're dealing with a young woman who is impressionable, dealing with an older man who is a predator, and they're getting pregnant for them. I addressed this issue and I wanted to put this picture here. I hate this. Let me tell you something. I hate this with a passion. I do not understand why it is that our women feel that this is a good representation of themselves. Why they believe that bending over, putting their backside out in the air and shaking their behinds is something that is representative of a woman with dignity and a woman with class. Something that a man with character would be attracted to. Oh, they're going to attract a dude all day long because men are visual creatures. But it's like guys will say, I'll sleep with that, but I'm not going to bring that home. So the reason why we have women doing things like this is because they were not raised by their fathers, especially, or their mothers who showed them the example of what a value was, what a woman of worth and a woman of value was. So they looked to the rap culture, they looked to the hip hop culture, and they said, well, this is what I see in all the music videos. This is what I see from all the popular celebrities. They're going and they got the video vixens and they got money on them and they look like they're having a great time and they're popping bottles and they're hanging out and they're enjoying life. So I'm sending a call out. I'm sending a siren's call out to let them know that I am available for this, because I'm really broken on the inside. That's really what's going on. I'm broken on the inside and I'm looking for attention. And if I can get attention this way, then this is what I'm going to do. Somebody's going to pay me attention, but they don't understand the consequences to that attention. Not all attention is good attention. And this, unfortunately, has become a cultural staple among the Black community, where our women are positioning themselves this way. I even saw it today. I was standing outside of my house, and it was a woman. She had on it was a parade today. It was the parade. So she had on the big, costume with the big wings on it, and she's taking pictures, and she had to make sure that she turned around and showed the picture of her backside, which, by the way, was not covered. It was some type of a thong type of an outfit. Was not covered, but she had to make sure that she took a picture with her backside out. And for me, when I saw that, it just spoke to what the culture is, the degeneracy of the culture, and the fact that our women, our young girls, or even some of our older mothers do not understand their worth or their value. So we're going to look in the book of Ezekiel, because we need to understand what this means to the Most High. We need to understand how he feels about what we have now been stigmatized with in terms of our culture. It says in his word, go throughout the city of Jerusalem and put a mark on the foreheads of those who grieve and lament over all the detestable things that are done in it. As I listened, he said to the others, follow him through the city and delete, I have to say that, this is going on YouTube later, so I have to say that, without showing pity or compassion. Now, I just want to take this group as an example. The other day when I talked about the degeneracy of our culture, there were a lot of people who logged in online. They wanted to hear it. Why? It's because, like I said before, when it comes to the degeneracy, when it comes to the toxicity, when it comes to the drama, we're always going to have people show up. But when it comes to the solution, when it comes to dealing with the problem and dealing with it in a way in which addresses the problem so that the problem is eradicated, that room is always going to be much smaller. And it's unfortunate, but that is also a part of the stigma of our culture. We understand that there is a problem. We understand that there is detestable things among us as a people, but we relish in it. We have become so enveloped in it that it becomes a part of what we entertain ourselves with. And this is grievous to the Most High. And that's why he said, put a mark on the forehead of those who are actually grieving and lamenting over the detestable things. I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, that mark ain't going on too many of our foreheads. It really isn't. Because most of the people in the Black community, and I'm not talking about those who know that they're Israelites, but even Israelites are not grieving over what is going on in the culture. They don't find that it's detestable enough to grieve over. You see, they have just gotten so used to it. They just walk out their house and they're like, you know what? This is just the way it is. This work, they'll say things like, the Christians, come Lord Jesus, come, right? The Hebrews will say, oh, Yahushua deliver us. But when it comes to actually being in grief, lamenting, looking for solutions, looking for ways to see the tide turn, most people are too busy. Everybody's got their own thing going on. Everybody's got their own life circumstances that they can't even look to see what bothers the heart of the Most High. Why is it that we are more concerned with our own issues and our own wants and our desires than we are with what pleases or displeases the Most High? We have been so wrapped up in everything aside from what he is interested in. And that is a problem. That is a huge problem that he says that he is not pleased with, because they show no compassion. Matter of fact, he says that in the last days that the love of many would wax cold. And that's what we see. Even among our people, the love of many waxing cold. We don't see the heart cry for our community. Enough is enough. The only time that we're seeing that is when it's another nation that's doing it to us. Oh, we'll go out and we'll see protests when there's police brutality, or when gun violence is affecting our children in the schools because some white boy went up there and shot up the school. okay? Or when some type of situation of unfairness by the dominant society hits us, then we'll protest it. We'll stand in solidarity to protest that. But when it comes to what we are doing to ourselves and to one another, there's 9 times out of 10, there is a turning of the head and a blind eye and not dealing with it head on. I don't want to deal with that. No, you know, I don't got time to deal with that. We ain't all perfect. But the Most High says that if you don't have compassion, if you're not grievous, if you're not lamenting, you're ripe and ready for the slaughter. And that's facts. That's his word. Let's continue. He says, slaughter the old men, the young men and women, the mothers and children, but do not touch anyone who has the mark. Now, I want us to just stop right there. I really want us to pause right there. I want us to understand what's being said. He says, slaughter the old men. That's the first thing he says. Slaughter the old men. And I was questioning why, and it just hit me so easily why he says slaughter the old men. Slaughter the old men because the old men are supposed to set the standard. The old men are supposed to be the fathers that say, no, this is unacceptable. But what are the old men doing? Nothing. The old men are not standing in the guard on behalf of the children of Israel. They're not standing up and saying this is unacceptable. They're sitting back and watching this stuff, some being entertained by it, and some just ignoring it. The old men are the ones responsible. Then he moves on to the young men. You got the energy. You got the power. You have the ability to pick up your hands, open up your mouth. You have the ability to go out into your community and make a difference and an impact. And instead, what are you doing? You're wasting your time looking at some video vixen. Instead, what you're doing, you're wasting your time trying to build up your own wealth and not thinking about the brokenness and poverty of the people around you. Let's move on to the young women. The young women, they need to get some of this too. Why? Because the young women are rebellious and haughty. You can't tell them nothing. You can't tell them nothing. You tell them something, next thing you know, they want to pop off in the mouth. They want to tell you whatever it is that they're big and bad and bold enough to tell you, but they don't want to change. The mothers and the children. You know, I look at that and you say, okay, the mothers and the children, why the mothers and the children? The mothers and the children, because they're all being raised up to have the same mindset, a mindset of degeneracy, a mindset that it says, I don't care if this is detestable, I'm going to do it anyway. So what does that look like in our culture? Let's put this in modern day terms. I know that y'all on social media are the same way I am. Do you know how many videos I've seen of mothers with their children doing very sexually seductive dances together? And I'm not talking about necessarily teenagers. I'm talking about young children. I mean, the mothers are raising up the daughters to take the place of them when they get older in Ho-Town. That's what they're doing. And these young children are watching them. I've seen videos where mothers have their sons sagging their pants and wearing Nike shoes with the braids and the wife beater because they want them to look like a young thug. The mothers and the children. Yeah. But don't touch anyone who has the mark. Don't touch any one of those old men, young women, mothers, or children that have the mark on their forehead. Why? Because they understand it. They're grieved over it. They see it. They're hurting over it. Hurting over seeing Jerusalem and Iraq, Jerusalem with walls torn down, not caring, out in Juve, enjoying the lasciviousness of the culture, instead of weeping and lamenting on behalf of Jerusalem, because she is a city that has been torn down by her idolatry. Begin at my sanctuary. So they began with the old men who were in front of the temple. Begin in my sanctuary. Begin with the elders, those who say that they know my word, those who are preaching my word. They call themselves elders. They say that they're doing the work of the Most High. But what are they doing? So the old men in front of the temple, they're the ones that are supposed to be preaching the truth. They're the ones that are supposed to be shepherding and guiding Yah's people. And instead, the old men aren't doing that. The old men are doing what they want to do. They're ignoring all the debauchery. They're relishing in it. I mean, if we just took an example, I don't even want to say the church. The church is low-hanging fruit, okay? We can see what the men of Israel are doing today in their celebrations. We can see that when they're celebrating, they're preaching one message, but that they're doing the next, okay? This is what the Most High is talking about. The enjoyment of lasciviousness, preaching a message that you're not living. Is it hard to live this word? Absolutely, 100%. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Many, many, many people fail to do his word because of how hard the assignment is into living right. It's a day-by-day thing. It's something in that you have to do with the Ruach HaKodesh. It's not something that we in ourselves are capable of doing, living righteously and living holy within ourselves. It's just not something that we within ourselves are capable of doing. Why? Because we have flesh. He says, apart from me, you can do nothing. He already told us that. See, some people think, oh, all I got to do is keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Apart from me, you can do nothing. No, you can't keep the law, statutes, and commandments apart from him. Why? He says the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. I said the letter kills, but the spirit is what gives life. So because the spirit is the one that gives life, we must be born again in order for us to walk according to the precepts of the Most High. We're not walking according to his precepts when we're not born again. We're doing our own thing. We going our own way. But with him, we can do all things. All right, let's jump into this spirit right here. The Jezebel spirit. All right. Now, last year sometime I did a message about this. I did a message about the Jezebel spirit. And that spirit has not changed. It's only gotten worse. It's at an all-time high, and our men, our women, and our children who are all being destroyed by it. I want y'all to take a look at this picture up here. This is a picture right here. Like I said, I'm sweeping in front of my own door first. This picture up here at the top, this is Carnival in the U.S. Virgin Islands. This is what it looks like. I chose this picture on purpose so that you could see the women and the children. The women and the children, okay? And it's not just women and children at Carnival. By no mistake, do not get me wrong. There's plenty of men. But this particular picture is one that captured the women and the children. And I wanted to show it because what we need to understand is that our children are being raised up in this. Our children are being taught how to be lascivious. Our children are being told that this is a part of who you are, not realizing that this is a part of the culture by way of the spirit of Jezebel. This is a part of passing your children through the fire. This is a part of it. Because these same young people today that are being taught to shake their bodies in the street today, 10 years from now, will be doing it with next to no clothes on. They will be. I guarantee you that. Mark my word, unless the Most High gathers us, 10 years from now, this will be them as grown adults with next to no clothes on. And who is going to tell them that what they're doing is immoral? Can mama tell them what they're doing is immoral? Can grandmama tell them what they're doing is immoral? How about granddaddy? How about papa? How about their daddy? How about anybody in their circle of influence? No, because they're all there with them, doing it together. And this is from one generation to the next, how we pass on the spirit of degeneracy, how we pass on lasciviousness because it becomes so ingrained in the culture. But the consequences are devastating. See, nobody talks about the consequences. We don't want to address it, right? Why don't we want to address the consequences of what happens when you live a degenerate and a lascivious life? This young lady is a social media influencer. She got her fame when she had connected with Nick Cannon. I don't know what her name is right now at the moment, but she actually ended up getting HIV/AIDS, okay? Now, she does not know, and she's made that very clear, she does not know exactly how she got it, okay? She could have got it from a partner. She could have got it from some needles. She thinks she might have got it from some needles, but she's not sure, okay? But I want you to look here on the right side of this picture. I want you to see what HIV/AIDS did to her body. Take a hard look. You see, because these are the consequences of what happens when you live a life that is not pleasing to the Most High. When you do what you want to do. These are the sexually transmitted diseases that happen inside of our people, which are devastated by these STI, STDs. Now, I know, back some 20 years ago, people were really, focusing on AIDS 20, 30 years ago. Now I say, even about 20, 30 years ago, people were focusing on bringing the attention and awareness to the AIDS epidemic. And they were trying to let people know exactly what's going on. But see, the problem is that because today we live in a culture where, all you got to do is take a pill for it. Just take a pill for it. It's okay. You take a pill for it. Then, you don't got to deal with all the symptoms that come with your disease. You don't got to deal with all the symptoms. But we can see clearly from here that that's a lie. See, they don't like to show this stuff. One thing I respect about this young lady is she chronicled her entire journey of recovery. She still has AIDS, but thankfully she is in a position where she don't look like this today. But this is how bad it got for her. I mean, this is devastating. She has no thigh muscle in this picture. She has no leg muscle or fat or anything in this picture. You could see on her face the horrendous pain that she is in. It's devastating. It's traumatic. But this is what is behind the scenes in the culture that they're not telling us about. Let's take a look here. We see this picture. This has gone around. This went viral. This picture is a picture of a woman who is twerking in a gold jumpsuit at church. This is at church. And listen, when I tell you I've seen worse. When I get on my platform, probably in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to show y'all some videos of what's going on in church now. Now, I know I said it's low-hanging fruit, but it's just so bad. It's so bad that if you don't weep for it, your forehead surely will not be marked, and you will be marked for death, because it is so bad today about what is going on in the so-called house of the Lord. Now, I'm going to move on from here because I want to talk about this picture over here. What you have in this picture are two men, one an older man and one a younger man. Both dressed, one obviously Caucasian and one Hebrew, dressed like women, drag queens. See, the normalcy, the normalizing of degeneracy among our people will have us to be like, oh, I see it all the time. Oh my goodness, this is nothing new. But the problem is that when you take that approach and you're not shocked by it every single time that you see it, when you're not shocked by it, it just shows that your heart has become exactly what was intended to be by the enemy, is become desensitized. You see, the Most High don't want us to be desensitized by this stuff. He doesn't, see that when people don't understand when he's talking about being like a child, okay, think about a child when a child is traumatized. When a child sees trauma, they're like shook. They are shook like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. Because there's a purity that is within that child, that they know that the thing that they're seeing in front of them, they know something ain't right about it. But what's happened to us is we have become so conditioned by this wickedness in the society that we have just become desensitized to it. And I get it. We can't all walk around like deer caught in headlights all day like, oh my goodness, we still got to function in this world. But what is your heart posture? That is the question. What is your heart posture when you're seeing this type of behavior? What is it? That's what the Most High is really concerned with. Are you broken over this? This is all the spirit of Jezebel, all of it that I'm showing you. Like I said, men and women. This is what's currently that's being pushed in the culture. This right here is the current visual of what's being pushed in the culture with Diddy. And this, I believe, is what's that rapper? The one that does Air Force Ones. Got my Air Force Ones on. He's with Ashanti, I believe, the musician. They got a baby coming on the way. They got a baby, and everybody's talking about, oh, Nelly. That's right, his name. Everybody's talking about Nelly and Ashanti and their baby, and oh, they're going to have such a beautiful baby. I can't believe they got back together after 10, 15 years. Oh, my goodness. This guy is right here hugged up on a grown man. He is hugged up on a grown man. Now, again, I don't know how many straight men they hug up so close on each other like that and bite their lips when it's happening. But this is the spirit of Jezebel, that sexually deviant, perverted spirit that has taken over the culture, that has become the culture among the Israelite people in the same way that it was when the woman Jezebel was here in antiquity, in ancient times, with her husband Ahab, who was a man, because the spirit of Jezebel does not flow without the spirit of Ahab. Because Ahab was such a weak man and Jezebel was such a woman, which means unhusbanded. That's what Jezebel means. Jezebel, I believe they said, without the J is her name. Because of that spirit and that woman, what she did, and it's permeated through the culture in the way it has, our houses are completely out of order. Our homes are completely out of order. And if you grew up with a Jezebelic mother or a Jezebelic father and a Jezebelic grandmother and grandfather, whichever parents they were, then you will be attacked with that familial spirit. I know personally. I'm telling you that it is a fight. It is a fight of deliverance to break free from the spirit of Jezebel, because it is not just a small spirit. That spirit is a stronghold. That spirit is one in which takes over nations, as we see today. Now, this is a conversation that people really don't want to have. Now, I apologize. It didn't come over properly, but ABUSE, abuse. Abuse is a huge issue among our culture, among our people. It doesn't get talked about too much, right? Because it's one of those things that brings a lot of shame to people who have been victimized by abuse in the various forms that it comes, whether it comes psychologically, where somebody is just really trying to destroy you in your mind, from a narcissistic personality that comes in and they have to say something to try to destroy you up here, telling you everything about yourself that is negative, never encouraging you, saying anything positive. And it's not constructive criticism. It's meant to demean you. It's meant to make you feel the lowest of lows. Things like saying, you ain't no different than your daddy. You a deadbeat like your daddy. You ain't never gonna be nothing. He wasn't nothing. You ain't gonna be nothing. We saw a lot of that in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, with mothers saying that to their young children. But the psychological abuse is not just from parents to children. It's from husbands to wives. It's from wives to husbands. It's from friends or so-called friends, frenemies, to their other friends. It's a destroying spirit. That abuse is something that takes a person and everything that's inside of them that is supposed to be great, and it destroys it. It makes them feel like they're less than nothing. But the psychological abuse and trauma is something that we're very familiar with, because that's how we've come into the nations that we've come into. We have been psychologically destroyed. We have been called bywords, multiple bywords. We've been told that we're nothing. All of our greatest achievements have been handed over. The acclaim of it, the celebration of it, has been taken from us and given into the dominant society. That is a part of the psychological abuse that our people have incurred, and we pass it down from one generation to the next. And it stops us, it hinders us from being able to be our greatest selves that we were called to be by the Most High. I'm going to jump into this other one last, but let's talk about child abuse. I notice whenever I talk about the children on the channel, which, by the way, when my channel started, my channel was always about the family. Make no mistake, Ashanda at Large was not about dealing with eschatology, current events. Those things I deal with, historical things I deal with, but the channel was always in dealing with the family, the breakdown of our homes. And because of the breakdown of our homes is why we're in the situation that we're in today. So let's deal with this child abuse, because I notice that people get turned off when I talk about the children. Like, oh, why are we going to talk about them? Well, because it ain't all about you. It's not all about us all the time. It's about the little people that are watching us, that are growing up. And I'll tell you, here's the thing. When it comes to child abuse, I was abused as a child, okay? Many of us were. We just didn't know it. You know, it became a part of the culture where it was like, you know, mama gonna beat that behind, daddy gonna whoop that behind. And we understood that if our parents knew any Bible verse, it was spare the rod, spoil the child. And there's nothing wrong with disciplining your children. But when it comes to the issue of child abuse, this is a huge thing. Okay, it's not just disciplining your children. Some people take it overboard. They're punching and beating on their children. They're taking big extension cords with thick extension cords and beating their children to their bloody pulp. But then it goes beyond that too. Sexually abusing children. You know how many children are being abused in their homes by their parents, by uncle their mama brought into the house because she just needed a friend. We know that this is happening, but yet again, our people in our community, we're not dealing with this the way we should be dealing with it. We bring some awareness to it, but we're not dealing with it in the ways that we should deal with by changing the behavior that leads up to it. Changing the behavior. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Physical abuse. Physical abuse is a huge problem in our community, a huge problem in our community. And I believe exceptionally in the Israelite community. I believe that as we see a rise up in our men, that they are rising up and being who they are called to be as the heads, that the enemy is attacking them and causing them to think that being the head means that they must be the aggressor, must mean that they must be domineering, must mean that if their wife has something to say and they don't like what comes out of her mouth, they can just slap her. Now, if you think that I'm being overreacting and I'm trying to make it seem like this is something that is greater, I'm telling you, I've seen polls where men will talk about how they will lay hands on a woman if she is out of line as far as they're concerned. She out of line, I'm gonna smack her. She out of line, I'm gonna punch her. She out of line, I'm gonna let her know who run this house. And this is a problem. This is an absolute problem because this is a disrespect to the daughters of Zion. The Most High never intended for the men of Israel to be domineering over the daughters of Zion. That was never the intention. You see it a lot in Africa. You see where it's deeply embedded in the African culture, regardless of the country, to where the men are expected by their families to beat their wives. This is a problem. And you see, this is one of the reasons why I say, see, I can't be over there. Not with that attitude. That's got to shift. That's got to change. And they call it, if you as a woman are speaking against that, oh, these Western women. No. This is not about being a Western woman. This is not about not knowing my culture as an Israelite. My culture as an Israelite is not to be beaten to a bloody pulp because you feel personally offended. That's not the culture of the Israelites. And how do I know that? I know that because when Yahushua was upon the earth, he made it very clear how he felt about the daughters of Zion. He saw the imbalance. He saw the disrespect. He saw that the Hebrew men were treating the women as though they were property and dogs. And so he said, no, Martha, Martha, because she was a part of that culture. Oh, I got to work. I got to hustle. I got to do this. I got to do that. Mary is supposed to be in here slaving with me while the men do nothing. No, you're worrying about the wrong thing. Mary has chosen what is better. She's sitting down and she is learning of me. Mary Magdalene, thrown at his feet, not the man committing adultery, but the woman committing adultery. Mary Magdalene thrown at his feet. What does he say? To the men? He doesn't speak to the women. He says, he that has the first, who has not committed any sins, be the first to throw the first stone. And all of them had to drop their stones. They had to drop it because he understood what was going on, the power dynamics there. They were testing him to see, do you adhere to our laws? And it was their laws. This was not the Most High's laws. This is why he condemned the traditions of men. It wasn't the Most High's law, it was their laws. Because their laws held her guilty and the man that she was with innocent. That is not the way the Most High set it up in his word. He made it very clear in the book of Leviticus how the righteous order, when it came to dealing with husbands and wives and how they were to treat each other sexually. It wasn't supposed to be cheating on. No cheating. Not for the man or the woman. So that brings us to sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is prevalent among our culture, our children, our women. There's trafficking that's taking place. Again, it's a part of the culture that needs to die. A part of that sexual abuse, whether we realize it or not, happens openly, and again, it's in the form of entertainment. The women, like I spoke about earlier, that are put up in the not magazines, but in the music videos as video vixens. These women are victims of sexual abuse, and they don't even realize that they're victims because they sign up for that victimhood. What tends to happen is that a woman who puts herself in that situation generally is a woman or young woman when she was young as a girl who was sexually abused. A girl who is not sexually abused does not put herself in a situation where she is acting out of degeneracy for the public eye to see. It just does not happen. It is a cry. It is a cry for help. She believes that by putting herself and exploiting herself in the way that she is, that she's going to receive love. She's doing this for an exchange of love. But what ends up happening is that she's exploited. And when those cameras go off, she's in somebody's hotel room doing something she ain't got no business doing 9 times out of 10. So when it comes to these abuses, these cultural problems that we have among us, the Most High, He's angry with it. We should be against physical abuse, psychological abuse, child abuse, sedge abuse, and spiritual abuse in any form by anyone. So let's deal with spiritual abuse. What does spiritual abuse look like? It looks like cults. It looks like the leader is able to come in and say whatever they want to say and not be held accountable. They tell everybody else how to live, but they themselves do not live that way. It's acted out and using the Bible and weaponizing the Bible to justify immoral behavior by the person who is weaponizing it. It's when husbands lord over their wives and say, I am the Lord of this house. You better do what I said according to the word. Not realizing that the scripture also says that you're supposed to deal with your wife gently, because if you do not deal with your wife gently, that your prayers will be shut up and the Most High will not even listen to you. See, they don't like that balance when it comes to the scripture. The Most High never set the men of Yisrael, He never set them over Israel to be abusers of His word, abusers to His people. He didn't set it up that way. But we see a lot of spiritual abuse going on, not just in Israel. We see abuse going on within the church, within the Catholic Church, sexual abuse, again, all perverting the scriptures in order to get out their own degenerate behavior. And that is displeasing to the Most High. He hates it. It's detestable in His sight. He wants an end to the corruption, spiritually, psychologically, for children, sedge, and physical. He wants an end to it. This is not what He wants from His people. He wants His people to be changed. He wants His people to be delivered, His people to be set free. He wants His people to be of pure hands and clean hearts, ones that are not defiled.